S5 II, Condor Blue style. What I mean by that is because I partner with them all the time to create these elaborate short films, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, it's nice to talk about a camera when you're in front of a computer, but it's much different when you're on set and you're able to actually use it in a real-world production. It's just more fun. So yeah, we partnered today with Condor Blue and also DZO Lenses to put this production, and we also got Joseph involved because you know it's got to be fun. So.
Right. Yeah, dude, this is sick. I need one of these. What I like about the film is like this.
So we're filming at Jacob Owens' ranch. He has a movie ranch. If you guys are not familiar with Jacob Owens.
What's up, y'all? Jacob Owens here. Welcome to my 40-acre film ranch, the Eclectic West.
He's a filmmaker, and this is the Eclectic Ranch. Beautiful place. There's a whole plane crash site. He's got this gas station. He's got a lot of different sets, and we're trying to utilize most of all the locations within our script, of course. So if you're ever in Southern California, this place has a really cool vibe.
Rap on Joseph.
Rap on Joseph.
So in conjunction with the S5 II, we're also testing out DZO lenses, especially the new one, the 1835. Really beautiful lenses. And I think this combination both with the S5 and these full frame lenses, cine lenses, based on their price points. So that's the thing about the S5 II is the price point is so phenomenal. You're getting an incredible camera for $2,000, and with these cine lenses, which are, I consider them budget. I know when you hear the price, you get 3 lenses for $10,000. I know some people are going to be like, that's not budget, but in the cine world, trust me, these are budget lenses, but they punch way above their weight class. If I could compare these lenses, I would say they look very similar to like Cook lenses. They have this really beautiful characteristic, and again, for the price and in conjunction with this camera, I think you're getting an incredible image. So the film that we're doing is called Agony, and it starts off where this mysterious character is dragging a guy who literally just was in a plane crash. I call it maybe like a psychological thriller. It's really fun. I would tell you more, but I have to say, check out the channel so you guys can see the full film. I think you guys will enjoy it. And obviously Joseph's part is awesome, so if you guys are watching this on his channel, you got to go check him out because he did an excellent job. Here's a quick tip. If you're out filmmaking and
You did a film with Fincher Brothers last year called Show Me the Father. Oh yes, I heard about that. My dad directed it. Yeah.
wing side grip lets you handle your rig. Superior ergonomics and remote trigger function allow you to stay in the action. Use it on the left or right with a quick rosette swap. Adjust your angle and stay on target without missing a shot. Whether you're built up or traveling light, you'll always have your finger on the trigger. And with our vast ecosystem of accessories, the perfect rig is right at your fingertips. Take flight with the new Condor Blue Trigger Wing Side Grip. This is the new Shoulder Pad Air from Condor Blue, our versatile solution for multiple shooting styles. The Shoulder Pad Air features an industry-first, removable and adjustable air chamber pad. Our unique design allows you to configure your rig your way for maximum comfort. With our key focus being flexibility, we feature multiple quarter-20 threaded mounts, airy locking pin 3/8 mounts, a quick release mount for 15mm rods, and our unique swiveling NATO rail, so you can find your preferred setup. Need a counterweight? Done. Extra point of contact and complex moving shots? Done. You can even use it as a shoe for your rig. Oh yeah, and the removable adjustable air chamber pad is also machine washable. So whether you're running, gunning, handheld, or getting down low for those unique perspective shots, you can be confident your gear won't slow you down. And with our ever-expanding Condor Blue ecosystem, we are confident you'll create your own unique layout that fits your needs. So get out there and shoot your shot your way comfortably with the new Shoulder Pad Air from Condor Blue. What's up, guys? It's Hobie, and we are on set filming an awesome video that you are not going to want to miss, especially if you're a John Wick fan. But I had to take a second to talk about our awesome Director's Monitor setup. As you can see, we have this set up so we're monitoring 2 different feeds with 2 different Polyland receivers with 2 different huge batteries on the back. That's right, this thing can hold so much weight all on this little connection here. And we're able to do this because these kits are completely modular. So we have 2 core brackets, 2 battery plates, 2 different battery plates, by the way. This is a gold mount, and we're able to do that with our accessory rod block back here with some 3-inch rods attached where we can attach our...
Hello and welcome to another interview we're calling the Condor Conversations. You like that?
I like that.
We're here with Mr. Jody Eldred. Now my brain is...
We were just talking
about it. Eldred.
Eldred, there you
I
go.
said Jody Eldred earlier, and we just had that conversation, then my brain went the other way.
Nearly got into a fist fight. I
I'm
was so offended.
sorry. It's a pleasure meeting you, Jody.
I'm triggered. I need a safe space.
I'm so sorry. Well, welcome to the Condor Conversation. We're just talking about how we're both already losing our voice, and it's only day 1 of NAB.
And so I'm sucking on a piece of hard candy here. That's if you hear me like gurgling a little bit, that's because it's causing me to. What's the word? Liquid coming out of my mouth. Thank you very much. Trying to keep it in there. So more information than you need.
So I've actually been coming to NAB for over a decade now, believe it or not, and which has been awesome, and I've loved every minute of it, and it's been fun seeing the change from the DSLR revolution to the gimbals, when that was a big thing, and then the drones, and now what is it? Time code? What's the kind of current trend? I don't know, but
virtual production.
Virtual production. You're right. Yeah. How long have you been coming to NAB now?
Probably since before you was born. I did in excess of 40 times for sure. The first one I went to was, I think, in Dallas, probably around 1980 or something, maybe. So, long time.
So I want to ask you, because I just listed a couple of the trends, and I'm sure you've seen all these things come and go, and new technologies, new things. What are some of the staples of filmmaking that you still see to this day, or things that you've learned that you're kind of seeing still being put into practice, or things that you focus on?
No matter what you do, you still have to have a camera. You have to have lenses. You have to have lights. You have to have grip to hold those lights. You got to have electric distribution for those. You got to have sound. And those are all things that we have here at NAB.
Yeah.
And you need that for broadcast. You need it for documentaries. You need it for cinema, for motion pictures. So that's all been around since the advent of motion pictures. And there's been an evolution for that. It changes broadcast. Their needs change. A lot of my work has been in network news as a cameraman, shooting documentaries and news magazine shows like 2020 and 48 Hours and Dateline and Good Morning America and blah, blah, blah. And so the cameras and lenses and lighting that we use for those things, they evolve in terms of size and weight and output and power draw. So those are big, big changes that we've seen here. Initially it would be just tungsten lights and HMIs, and now everything is LED pretty much, and you hardly see any tungsten or HMIs anymore.
And poor KinoFlow, they were so revolutionary when they came out, but now nobody's using the tubes anymore.
Yeah, well, of course, KinoFlow has adapted. Now they have LED instruments and some really very high-end stuff. So it's been great to see. In fact, I was having this conversation with another colleague of mine who's about my age, and I won't say who the company is, but they didn't adapt. They were a powerhouse, but they didn't look downrange. They didn't look at how the business is evolving right now. You have to be a fortune teller to see where things are going to some degree. And they just kind of stayed with what they were, and they went from a booth that was very sizable with tons of stuff to just like a booth with two guys and one light on a stand. And it's a shame. Didn't have to be that way. But then you've got the others, like KinoFlow as an example, who have adapted and have shifted into, okay, we're in the LED world now, so how are we going to do that? And KinoFlow is making some kinetic lighting to be used that can be pixel mapped for virtual production. So I know that they're working on that kind of thing. Dido Light, they're always evolving. And it's been great to see companies like Nanlite, that even though they've been around for, maybe like 25 years, a long, long time, it's just recently that you're really now seeing what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it's exciting.
I don't know if you've been to the Julian booth. Some people pronounce it Zhiyun. But they have a light. It's a 100-watt light that is the size of your iPhone. It's literally this big. It's just a big fan on it to cool it. But it's literally this big, and there's a little battery that can go on it. And it's 100 watts, and it's this big. It's insane. I've never seen anything like that.
And it used to be as well. There's still some of this. That when light panels, and they're another company. Another company has been adapting. They were the first panel lights out there, and
it's funny. They're not really. Yeah, they haven't adapted in the way that some of the others have.
Not as aggressively as some have.
They owned the market, though.
Yes, they did, and I used nanolights on the TV show Jag, a second season, and that was, I don't know, 25 years ago or something.
The light panels, not nanolight.
The very first light panels, yeah. These little kind of rectangular lights they had, used camera lights, we put them on desks and different things. And then they owned the whole panel light world, the 1x1s and all that. Still popular. They're still out there. They're still a very, very good product. But they're just one of the many companies that if you don't adapt, you're going to die. And there's so many companies, almost all of them out of China, that are making these panels, these little tiny panel lights. And one thing that I have noticed is that initially they were just knockoffs of what light panels was doing. You know, I have friends of mine like, hey, man, I just got a 1x1. I paid $100 for it. I'm like, I'm sure it wasn't worth $100, you know. Got a green spike in there, doesn't dim properly. Color temperatures really aren't that accurate at all. Flimsy material, they lasted for a year. I'm like, I'm for buying something once and not have to buy something cheap 3 or 4 times. But I understand why people do that. But that bar has been raised quite a lot. So some of these little, 100-watt light the size of your phone 2-3 years ago might have been a piece of junk that wouldn't last very long and maybe had a green tint to it. But now the technology and the circuitry and so forth is changing so much, and some of these same companies are making products for a number of others, that some of those little things are actually pretty darn good. And that's been an interesting thing to see.
The one I was just referring to, I picked one up, and they're fantastic. So,
and I was going to say that the biggest trend that I have seen, honestly, among everything has been the democratization of the business. Prices on everything have come way down. Technology has gone way up. So now...
And the distribution is free with YouTube.
Yes,
I don't need to have a production company or a producer to promote my film, or I can just upload to YouTube.
Yep. So anybody can get into it now. I mean, when I was first shooting the first high definition work with Sony F900s, those cameras were $100,000, just the body, and I owned 2 of them. And I bought my stuff from Band Pro in Burbank, and I proudly say that Amnon Band, who I bought that from, I probably put at least 1 or 2 of his kids through college. Just through my purchases, But these were things that I had to have for my business, and they paid themselves off because we were getting really good rental rates on that stuff, and I got them on movies and TV shows and all kinds of things, in addition to my own projects. And now there's stuff I can do with my phone that looks just as good or better. Now I don't have the lenses and so forth and the camera controls, but because everything has come down in price and technology has gone up, anybody can get into it. That's a double-edged sword, because there's an awful lot of people in this business who are extremely talented and gifted, and they now can be empowered to go out and pursue whatever those gifts are that God has put in them to maximize that, because the tools are available now, including editing and color grading. You can get Resolve for free, for gosh sakes.
DaVinci Resolve is completely free.
Yeah, and you can't do 10-bit, you can't do, some 4K output and so forth, but for $300 you can, and that's for life with lifetime upgrades. I mean, that's chicken scratch.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is that there's a ton of people who have this gear, have this equipment, and they really should be pursuing something else, because that's not the gifting that God has put in them. I taught a class this past semester, a cinematography course at Biola University.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And one of the, so I was Professor Eldred for a few months there.
Nice.
And you don't have to call me that, but I would appreciate it if you would. So one of the things that I told them, and it was an intermediate course, juniors and seniors. I had 17 students, a very small class. It was hands-on lab. We were doing lighting projects and stuff. But one of the things I told them, I said, you may have a passion for cinematography. You may really love it. You may find it totally interesting, but you may not be suited for it. Like I wanted to be an astronaut growing up. I mean, I seriously wanted to be an astronaut. All through high school, I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. But then back in those days, astronauts were like former test pilots and all that kind of jazz. And I started doing the math. I'm like, the odds of me even becoming a fighter pilot, much less a test pilot, and then getting selected for NAB, blah, 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 like, not ever going to happen. But I really wanted that. I'm glad I didn't pursue that. It would have been fruitless, I'm pretty sure. So I told my students, I'm like, look, just because you really, really love something doesn't mean you're good at it, doesn't mean you're gifted at it. So you need to really take a look at what has God put into you that it's something that you also have a passion for, but that you have kind of natural affinity for it, that it isn't a battle, because you don't want it to be a battle and a struggle all the time. Not to say it's not going to be hard work, because it is, but I have worked with people who are like, you really should be doing something else, and you have fantastic skills in something else. So go find out what that is and go do that. And I actually had probably at least one of my students that I had to kind of communicate that to. It's like, you know what? This isn't for everybody. This isn't a qualitative thing. and you're really, really good at logistics. You should consider being a production manager.
Totally.
Or you got great storytelling. You should be a writer.
Yes.
And you would be a rock star writer, or whatever it may be. So we got to find that thing. What are those gifts that God has put in us, and go pursue those things, and not something else. So just because
Absolutely.
you can afford a camera, that doesn't mean you're a cinematographer.
Yeah, I think, when you don't have the education of knowing all the different roles, you just look to kind of the more popular ones, director, cinematographer. It's like, oh, I want to do that. But then, yeah, with your experience and learning about other things, maybe you're better suited for another role. I know for me personally, I love gear, I love filmmakers, I love interacting with other filmmakers, and but I don't really care about making movies at all. I could care less. But I love the whole industry, so now I'm involved in essentially documenting that side of it, and just being a part of the conversation. That's why we're sitting here today. So.
Yeah, and and it's a very vast business. I mean, there's roles for just about anybody with any skill set. You could be a seamstress. You can work in wardrobe. You can do makeup and hair. You can do craft services. You can be a chef. You can be cooking.
Yeah.
You can be an electrician or a grip or somebody who carries heavy things.
And now with the virtual stuff, we need designers to do the 3D stuff.
3D modeling.
It's like game development, basically.
I was at Best Buy a couple of years ago getting a new TV, and I was talking with the salesman, and he was a college-age guy. He was in college. A smart guy, I could tell. And, he was recommending a couple of different TVs to me, and I said, I'm doing a lot of work in virtual production right now. I'm working on a show that's on HBO Max, and I want to make sure I get a TV that has really good HDR. Really important to me, dynamic range, accurate color, blah, blah, blah. And this is why I want this camera, and this is why I want this TV. And we got to talking about it, and he was quite a knowledgeable guy. And so I said, so what, how do you know about this stuff? You're 20 years old or whatever, and, pretty sharp. I go, well, I'm in college, and I'm studying, I don't know if it was visual effects or something, but he was at a local film school here. And it was also some computer-related stuff beyond visual effects. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I was just very impressed with him. He was sharp. He was engaging. He was knowledgeable. He was honest. And I could just tell he had a lot going on. So
Cool.
I got his number. And a friend of mine, Sam Nicholson, who's an ASC cinematographer, owns Stargate Studios. And they're a big visual effect. Not big in terms of size, but in terms of the projects they do. Very significant visual effects house in LA, and he's been doing this for 40-something years. And they do visual effects and green screen compositing and all kinds of stuff, commercials and major TV shows and feature films, you name it. And he's always looking for people who can do that kind of work, because it's kind of a specialty, and are people who are also willing to learn. And the virtual production world was very much an emergent technology 2 years ago when this happened. And so they're having to train people on how to do this kind of stuff, create the images, run Unreal engines, whatever it may be, how to put everything together. And so I told him about this guy. I said, I think this is maybe somebody you should think about, because he's got smarts, he's got a good attitude, seems very, very teachable, and he was interested. Anyway, make a long story longer, he hires the guy. The guy's been working full-time for him now for like 2 years.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was down there not too long ago, and he goes, hey, do you remember me? And I went, Best Buy, right? And he goes, yeah, I've been working out here for a year now and love it.
He loves it.
And so it was kind of cool. So here's a guy who's, at least for the moment, found his niche, and he's probably maybe 22 now, and is learning from really one of the true masters in the visual effects and special effects world in Hollywood, because he recognized, I don't know if he's a follower of Christ or not, I have no idea, but he did recognize that this is an area that not only do I have aptitude in, but it's kind of natural and I like it.
Yes.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to find that, and I think it is important to maybe try a couple different career paths or whatever, and especially when you're young like that. So,
Absolutely.
So you're listing all these projects that you've been involved with and things that you're doing. This is the first time we've met. Can you give me kind of a synopsis of your career and what you do for your
Not
job?
really, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was telling you, or I was telling
Are you a
Lucas.
cinematographer? Are you a gaffer? Are you a
I'm a
director, producer?
I'm a hyphenate, so I'm a director and a cinematographer and a writer.
Okay.
And I'm also an editor and a colorist. And it kind of depends on the job.
Okay,
you know?
So you do it all.
So yeah, for a long time, and yes, and I do it all very average. It reminds me of you familiar with the guitarist Chet Atkins?
Yes.
From at all? You know, he's one of the great influencers of all time in terms of guitar work. Any modern rock guitarist, any guitarist would tell you I was affected by Chet Atkins. He was an amazing guy, and he had this very unique style. And if you've never heard Chet Atkins, Google him, listen to some of his stuff, and this will make sense to you. But in his one of the obituaries that I read, he died a couple of years ago. Somebody asked him to explain his style of playing. And Chet said, I would describe my style of playing as two guitarists playing simultaneously poorly.
That's interesting.
So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, because two is better than one, so
yes.
therefore it kind of...
And his style, it did sound like two guys playing at the same time, but it was not poorly. So
that's kind of you. You're
so I'm a
do it all.
hyphenate, so I can do 5 things all at the same time pretty poorly.
And
That's
so you're just kind of a freelancer that just gets hired for jobs.
I am, and sometimes I'm hired. Hey, yeah, we're doing a very famous TV show here. Literally dozens of people watch.
Yeah.
Was that good?
A baker's dozen.
So this project, I'm a member of the Directors Guild of America, DGA. I joined that in 1985. So there's projects I got hired on to direct. Some TV, network TV stuff.
And you live in LA?
I do. Live in Los Angeles. Been there 40 years. So I've done
You've
lots
seen
and
a
lots
lot of change in that town.
I have, yep. So lots of episodes. I've worked on lots of episodic TV as a cameraman. I've directed lots of multi-camera shows. I've directed lots and lots of documentaries, probably 100. Then I was at ABC Network News for about 15 years as a cameraman, freelance guy doing network news magazine shows. I worked for all the networks, PBS Frontline. It's kind of a same bunch of guys who pretty much shoot all those things. There was a bunch of us, but we all know each other and we're friends. And then the TV shows like JAG and NCIS and Medium at NBC and NCIS Los Angeles, I worked on those shooting kind of specialty video stuff. So every episode we would have something like a surveillance camera or whatever it may be. Maybe a reporter stand up on camera, and I was even on camera a few times doing that because I used to do that kind of stuff. So I shot a load of that stuff. And when I had my F900s, my Sony cameras, we used them all the time on that because they were shooting 35 millimeter film, and these were pretty good looking 1920 by 1080 HD cameras.
They were using film for a TV show?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
crazy.
they didn't shift to high definition until the early 2000s because those cameras really weren't out.
Yeah, it's just
and then
it's very, I would imagine, expensive and time consuming.
But everything, all feature
What else are you gonna
films,
do?
every TV, the only things that were video were like soap operas and some sitcoms. But even most sitcoms were still shooting on 4-camera 35 millimeter film.
That's why soap operas had that kind of
soap opera look
because
Yeah.
it was early cameras.
30 frames video. There was no 24 frame video back then. Didn't exist, or 23.98 actually. So it's been great getting to work in those capacities. And now that I'm older, I'm doing less work for hire, although I still do a lot. But I'm writing. I've got a screenplay we're trying to sell for a feature. I've got an episodic TV series that I've written, and a few other bits and odds. And it's just my personal evolution. And I'm grateful that I've had the experiences that I've had on these. I also worked for there was a show called HBO First Look, and it was the behind the scenes of significant feature films, and I shot a ton of those. So that was fun getting to work.
When was that?
That was in the 90s, pretty much. So I got to work on like The Mask with Jim Carrey and Rush Hour. It
was before the DVD extras,
Yeah, well, they ended up as the DVD extras, a lot of this stuff. Because there was an actual show called HBO First Look.
I saw one on AMC that was similar to that in the 90s, and that's kind of what I got. That's what inspired me to be a filmmaker, was those types of shows.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there was a show called, what was it called? Something like The Movie Makers or something. And if there was a movie that they were running like on ABC on a Friday night or something, and if it was like an hour and 45-minute movie and it ended before the 10 o'clock news came on in Central Time Zone where I grew up, there'd be a 15-minute gap, and they would sometimes run these little things, and they were behind the scenes. And it's the first time that I had ever seen that, and it was very intriguing to me. I was probably elementary school or junior high, and so same kind of deal. It was the behind the scenes, and I'm like, this is really cool.
Even to this day, like I've been watching Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix. It's a great little series. And every once in a while, the cameraman will get into the shot, and I'll pause it, and I'll like kind of look.
What was
they
he
shoot on
using?
red with
What kind of lenses he got?
Is that the free fly on there?
Yeah,
with
I do the same thing too. And it's a guy, a friend of mine, somebody that I know.
yeah, for you that would be
Yes.
Or I always find it so fascinating to see, like for the Super Bowl, all the photojournalists coming in, and I'll pause, and you could see like about 100 people all surrounding the. It's like they're all Canon, 1DXs, but then you can see some video guys, like the NFL guys, are using Alexa,
using
cameras,
Amiras.
and stuff. I have a
Yeah,
friend.
that's what I did for a year and a half. My first job, I was working in sports, and I covered the Dallas Cowboys. I went to the Super Bowl with them. I was one of those sideline cameramen that
cool.
almost got killed several times
Really?
by
Wow.
guys running out of the way. I never got hit, but it was very close. But that was all really great learning experience, and that's the kind of things you do when you're 19. You're carrying a 35-pound TK76 camera. You're wearing a 20-pound battery belt for that, another 20-pound battery belt for the light, and you have about a 30-pound tripod. So I was carrying around gear that weighed about the same amount that I was in 105-degree humid temperatures in Dallas in August. Yeah, so if I did that
That's
now,
no fun.
I would be dead within just a few seconds, probably.
So
But that was fun.
I'm a fairly new father. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. My wife is pregnant with our third child.
Congratulations.
And so I'm, in this industry, and same. I'm a freelance entrepreneur type filmmaker person. So my question is, how have you balanced? I see a wedding ring on your finger there. Do you have children?
I got married late in life, and my wife had 3 kids from a previous marriage. So I've been married. It'll be 12 years in another couple of weeks. And maybe part of the reason that I got married when I was 55 was that I maybe wasn't managing things so great.
Okay.
I did have a lot of relationships, and I did travel a lot, and I covered
So you
the
didn't
Iraq
have time
War, all
for-
kinds of stuff. I don't know that it was I didn't have time. I think I had other priorities, and
What changed in you then?
that's a good question. And I mean, some of this has nothing to do with work or the business at all. Some of it is just
So it
plain
has
old-
everything to do.
plain, well, yeah. It was me. I think there were just places where I needed to mature and grow, and I don't mean to sound this super spiritual, but this is just the flat out truth. I think there were relationships that I was not ready for, that God protected the other woman because I wasn't the right guy. I had people say, "Haven't you met the right girl yet?" And I said, honestly, I think there's 2 or 3 times where I had met the right girl, but I was not the right guy. And in retrospect, I look at that, I say, I'm glad that God protected them for me, because I think it would have been a bad relationship. And then there were women that I dated who would not have been the right ones for me at all. And there was just a lot of maturing that I needed to do, and still do. My wife, if she's listening to this, she would agree, but she would never say that. So I'm really
sweet.
glad that God, was preparing my wife for me and me for her. And it happened in a stage in my career where there was a lot of big change going on. Right about the time we got married, ABC Network News, shortly after that, closed their bureau in Los Angeles, and they were my biggest client. One of the TV shows I was working on had some big changes in there, and that went away. And that was 15 years of work. So my 2 biggest clients for 15 years were gone like that. Housing market crashed in 2008. I got married in 2011. So we were kind of building back from that. So it was and has been some pretty hard times these past 12 years, to be honest with you. The economy is still, it's terrible. We're in a recession. I don't care what anybody says. Inflation is out of control.
Yeah.
Making money, it's just flat out difficult. Getting my project sold a few years ago would not have been that big a deal. Now it's like nobody wants to spend money on anything. Are you kidding me? They're all on hunker down mode.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
this has been a time for me and my wife to really kind of look at, okay, what does God want to do with us here, and how do we maximize that, and how do we stay inside of His will, not panic, and there's a tendency for us human beings to do that. God tells us not to worry. Says, what do you worry? You think I'm not going to take care of you? I take care of the birds of the air. Look how well they do. They don't freak out. Worrying does nothing for you at all. When I worry, I'm telling God I don't trust you.
Exactly.
And I have to repent of that several times every day, pretty much. I'm just being honest here. So balancing life and work, this work, it's hard. It is really difficult. And if I was younger, when I was younger and making a lot of money and was single, and there was so much opportunity out there and so much money being paid in high rental gear, and I was being paid, it was not a stressful time financially at all. But that whole business has changed because it's become so democratized. As I mentioned, there's young people now who will work for a third of what I do. And so I have to have clients who want me. They want my experience, what I can bring to this. If they just want somebody to come in and set up a light and interview, there's a lot of people that can do that.
Sure.
And it's the same with equipment. It's like the days of me getting $1,500, $2,000 a day, $2,500 a day for gear for a basic package. It's like people are like, I can hire somebody for $500 for that. And frankly, they're kind of correct a lot of the time. So, and this is something I had to advise my students on at Biola this last year too, is that you need to make sure that you are skilled in things that make money, even if it isn't exactly what you want to be doing. Because I said, chances of you graduating from this film school and starting in feature films, 0. And that's just very, very unlikely. You may work on some independent pictures from some friends who maybe you won't get paid or credit or whatever, but you need to learn things like how to shoot and light an interview, how to do corporate stuff, how to do things at houses of worship. Just learn all those kinds of things, because those are jobs that are easier for you to get, especially if you're a film student.
Weddings are good too.
Yeah, absolutely. Our weddings can be extremely lucrative, and it's not like I'm a wedding videographer. No, do that, or do you want to be a barista at Starbucks? Take your pick. Make minimum wage and a 25-cent tip, or shoot weddings.
Or get paid to go to a party.
Yes, exactly. That's not hard work. And you might pick up $5,000. Come on, this isn't brain surgery.
It's a little bit of humility, I think.
It is
setting your pride at the table.
I have shot weddings in the past few years myself. People needed something. I'm like, are you kidding me? Heck, I'll do this. Why not? I got nothing going on this weekend. You're going to pay me $3,000? Am I going to sit at home because I'm a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Oh, heck no. That's money I need. So.
Well,
kind of all over the place here. I don't know if that answered any questions
that was great.
you asked.
I think it was good. We're sitting here at the Condor Blue booth, and Lucas is a great mutual friend. Talk to me about the gear that you've seen Lucas and the team at Condor build, and just your experience using their equipment. Have you had any part in some of the development of anything? Any ideas that you have for them?
Well, it's mostly junk. I certainly wouldn't use it. I would recommend it to children, maybe, as things they could play with, like your kids.
The Legos.
Yeah. They're expensive Legos.
Expensive Legos.
Now, one of the things that I like about, nobody's paying me to be here. I'm just saying this because it's true. Lucas, because he is a filmmaker himself, he's a cinematographer. Lucas Colombo, the owner of the company, he designs stuff that he likes. Like, I need that. Nobody's making this. Yeah. I need this. I want this for my camera. I don't like holding the camera like this. I want to design a handle that's more comfortable for me. So he does that. These cables, these are crummy cables. They're weak. They bend. Whatever. They don't stand very well. I can't find anybody who's making the cables, so I'm going to make these cables myself. Power cables, USB cables, whatever it is. There's no way to mount this SSD on here. This is stupid. I'm using, bongo ties or tape or Velcro or whatever. This is dumb, and it's coming off. And when I need to change it, I got to pull this stuff off. Why don't I just design something that will do this? So he does. And he does this all the time with all kinds of stuff. And he'll take other products that other people have made that have out there, and he'll find a way to repurpose that and make it a little bit less expensive. Maybe make some improvements on it here and there. And so I've quite a bit of his stuff. And I use it, and I like it. And also, he's very confident in his products.
That's right. Lucas is very confident.
Yes, he is. He's right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
and for good reason.
And it's a great team of people too, engineers, designers, and stuff. So, I have loved meeting all these guys, and it's great to know that they exist and that they're a good, honest company in America and just doing great work. You know,
I was having a conversation earlier today with the owners of two companies. One is Hoodman. Are you familiar with those guys?
Oh
at
yeah,
all?
I have a couple of their products.
Yeah, I got a bunch of their stuff.
Every
And-
camera I get a special hood from them.
Yeah, for their viewfinder, for their monitor.
Yeah.
And I have some of their drone stuff. I've got one of their flight pads and stuff that they sell, whatever they're called exactly. But I've known those guys almost since they went into business in the mid '80s, and good guys, and I like them a lot. And then there's another company called Orca that makes cases.
Yep, I know them.
And they are right next to each other here in the Central Hall at NAB. And the guy who...
I bet Porter Brace is right next to them as well, right?
Oh, are they over there? Oh,
I'm
that's
assuming.
funny. They could be. I don't know.
They've been
But,
around forever, too.
Yes. So the guy who owns Orca and heads it up is a former Israeli Navy SEAL. He's a guy that I know pretty well. And he makes stuff that's very, very robust. And it's going to last forever. And I have a whole bunch of his gear, and I use it because I like it. It's my favorite for cases, for cameras and lighting and all kind of stuff. I have a lot of that. So people are always asking me, who makes that? I love that. That's a really great case. Yeah, it's Orca. So I have all this Hoodman stuff. I have all this Orca stuff. And so Ofer, the head of Orca, says, do you know those guys at Hoodman? Yeah, I do. And he goes, because I like to talk to them about maybe me manufacturing some of what they do, because it's made out of different fabrics and stuff. And he has some real good deals because, he makes stuff out of textiles and what have you. So we had this conversation, and this goes to Lucas. I told the guys, I said, one similarity between you two guys is that you look downrange and see what is a need out there that is not being met. What is a need for a case, for a carrying case, for a bag, for lights or for cameras, still cameras, mirrorless, cinema cameras, whatever it is. And then on the Hoodman side, you're looking at, okay, these guys, they're using this gear in this glary sun, and they don't have a daylight viewable thing, so we're making this. And then here's drone operators. They need stuff. They're always thinking of, here's a need that no one is meeting, and we're looking downrange and doing it. So I told the both of them, I said, that's where you guys are very similar. You both look downrange and see what do people need, not just some gimmicky thing that we want to try to sell, but it actually meets a need. And they've both done very, very well and have been lasting a long time. Lucas is the same thing. He's like, what need is there out there? There's this, and he just sees those needs and makes those things, and they sell.
And I'd say that definitely applies to filmmakers as well. Like the virtual production. I mean, that is absolutely the future of this medium. So, what are some interesting, innovative ways to tell stories using these new tools and new things?
That's exactly right. My friend Sam Nicholson, ASC at Stargate Studios, who I mentioned, he's really been at the tip of the spear in terms of creating some of the new technologies for this. Taika Waititi had this HBO Max series called Our Flag Means Death, and it was a comedy pirate series, and they wanted to shoot. They're like, well, it happens on a ship in the ocean in the Caribbean, and that's extraordinarily expensive and time-consuming to do because weather and clouds come in and out, and the ocean color changes when clouds move through. It's a nightmare to do. I've done tons of that kind of stuff. It's horrible. And, it's fun, but you can spend insane amounts of time doing it. A buddy of mine produced one of the Jaws films, and he's like, I'm never going to do another movie on the ocean. Just forget it. And so they decided they would do this virtual production, and it was one of the first big productions that did this. And so at Warner Brothers, they built an LED wall that was 160 feet across, so it's like more than half a football field, by 30 feet tall, and they built a life-size pirate ship on a gimbal in front of it. And so we went to Puerto Rico, me and Sam and a couple of people, and shot all these plates of the ocean and beaches and all this kind of stuff to put up on that. So we're shooting with like 4 Ursa Mini Pro 12K cameras at the same time. So shooting 48K simultaneously with slide overlap, so we can put 48K up on that big screen. And people are like, well, why do you need that? I was having this conversation with a friend earlier, and he goes, you don't really need that kind of resolution. I'm like, well, here's why. First off, it's 160 feet across. So 48K, putting that up there, they had some scaling they did, so it actually was 60K. But
So they actually needed more resolution.
They did, yeah. And they're running it on 4 DaVinci Resolves that are kind of quad splitting that and running it all at the same. I mean, they wrote the code for it. It was amazing what he did. But if you're shooting a tight shot of me, or if you're shooting me like waist to head or something, the part of that screen behind you, but the part of the screen behind me that we're seeing, it's not 60K or 12K or 4K. The little piece of the screen behind me you might be seeing is maybe HD, maybe not even that. And so, lots of shots are this, or their waist, or their cowboy, or their head to toe, or whatever. So we're not shooting that whole big thing. We're just shooting a small segment of it.
Though
so
it may be
that resolution is
blurred out a bit, with depth of field,
yeah,
right?
But that's a choice that the cinematographer and the director get to make. So you don't want to limit them by saying, well, we don't have really high resolution, and you're going to see moire here, so please shoot at a 2.8 or greater, or shoot on a longer lens. It's
now you're telling the storytellers how to tell their story.
Yeah, and they are not
they do
interested
not like
in that. Yeah, there's a name for that, and it's called not repeat business.
Yeah.
So Sam invents these things and comes up with the way to do this very, very creatively. So for me, as somebody who hasn't really done a lot in the visual effects world, special effects, it's been great fun as a cinematographer getting to go on those shoots and shoot the test footage for these things and have the cinematographers come in with their whatever cameras they want to use from the Alexas and shoot against some of the plates that I did, and me get to see how that works and shoot with some of the various Blackmagic cameras and see when are we getting moire here. By the way, they just introduced the Blackmagic 12K with an optical low-pass filter, which is a big deal, and I had consulted with them a little bit of that because I did some testing for them. And having an OLPF on a camera when you're shooting any kind of really high resolution stuff, but when you're shooting LED walls, it's pretty important because you can introduce moire without trying real hard. So being able to do that on the capture side when you're shooting fine patterns, stripes, checks, a brick wall, chain link fence is really handy. But when you're actually on the set, having a camera that also has the OLPF in there, that's a big deal too.
So I haven't even really given the 12K camera much consideration because
shame on you.
I shoot 4K. So tell me what's the reasoning for that product? It seems like there is a real niche market for that, for a 12K. What's 12K for?
Well, it does shoot in 4 resolutions. It shoots 12, 6, 8, and 12, 8, 6, and 4K.
Okay.
So you have all of those. You have a full 12K sensor, and is
that a Super 35 or?
I'm sorry.
Is that a
Super
full
35?
Okay.
Yeah. So you're getting that entire 12K sensor, even if you're shooting in 4K. It's still got all the resolution, and it just kind of down-reses everything. So it's not taking a 4K part of that sensor. It's still all that 12K stuff. So you're getting a much finer.
So you can get an 8K downsampled so it's an even sharper 8K.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
From there, you could go. Can you go down to 6K as well?
6 and 4K.
Oh,
absolutely.
wonderful.
So you got all those resolutions. So there's that. The other part of it is that 12K is a niche. You don't need 12K unless you're shooting visual effects or stuff like that great big wall, right? Yeah. But we're delivering in UHD 4K all the time. Yeah. So if you're not shooting in 6K or 8K, you can't resize the shots. You can't do stabilization. Yeah. You can't, get various sizes out of one thing, because if you do, you're zooming in and you go in a little bit and you're going to see pixels now. Yeah. So I rarely shoot anything in 4K anymore unless I have an HD deliverable. Yeah. So 12K, you can do tremendous amounts of zoom in, and when you're shooting in Blackmagic RAW, B-RAW, the file sizes are smaller than a lot of ProRes. They're very, very manageable. So big fan of that. I shoot mostly 6K and 8K now.
Is that your primary tool right now? Or?
It is, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I love the color science on the camera. It's the Gen 5 color science, which we had on the Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2. Roy Wagner, ASC, shot a feature film with the G1 that didn't have the Gen 5 color science, and it's as good as any Alexa that he had ever worked with. He preferred the skin tones and the highlight roll-off and all that, and he could have used anything on that movie. I was a technical consultant on that. So, and I'm brand agnostic. I don't care. I was a Sony guy for an awfully long time. And Venice 2,
Venice
phenomenal cameras.
It's really crushing.
They're fantastic,
it right now.
yeah.
But
we're talking a $7,000 12K camera with Gen 5 color science versus the Venice 2, which is whatever that is, 70 or whatever.
Yeah, 70. Yeah.
So they're fantastic, and there's slightly, there's reasons why you might want to use that, and I don't fault anybody for doing it. But if they haven't really done tests with the 12K, they need to, even if you're not shooting in 12K.
Okay.
They're just
I'll consider that. I've never
and
never
it's
messed around with it.
so inexpensive
Yeah.
that you can own the darn thing.
Yeah. Cool.
And also, by the way, it has, I know I sound like a salesman, I'm not. These are just things that I like. They have interchangeable lens mounts. So you can use EF, so any Canon lens on there. You can use PL mount. You can use Nikon F mount, so any of your old Nikkor glass you can use. And you can put B4 E&G lenses on there. And it takes less than 5 minutes to change out that. So I've used literally all of those on my camera. So
That's great.
big fan.
I'm a owner of the C70, the Canon C70.
Nice
Huge
camera.
fan. It's small. It gives me everything. I'm a YouTuber, so it gives me everything I need for the run and gun style. But yeah, I'd love to have a look at the 12K.
Yeah, well, and also their Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro is a phenomenal camera.
That's a good one as well.
You know, it's the same size as your typical DSLR or
They
mirrorless
added the
camera.
NDs.
Yep, you got NDs, and I love that they listened to us, because when I came out with the first one, because I've been consulting with them on this, I'm like, good guys, we need ND in here, please, for God's sakes. The viewfinder doesn't tilt, that doesn't work
Fix
for me, and we need a daylight viewable, and sure enough, next version, within a year,
Everything.
NDs, tiltable screen, daylight viewable. I mean, it was really fantastic. And we even have an EVF that you can mount on there if you're in a really bright
It's
area. You put
everything
your
you
eye
need,
up to
really.
it.
So.
So I'm huge. We use those on our Flag Means Death as well. We had circle rigs shooting 360. We had 8 of those.
Wow.
And then 1 shooting up to get sky and reflections and clouds. So those are also really, really great tools.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we shot in Puerto Rico for a week, came back with 200 terabytes of files.
Good grief. 200 terabytes.
Yeah, it was a lot. The
how
media
is that?
management was a difficult chore. We had guys who were staying up all night long just transferring stuff and backing it up. Yeah, it was nuts.
So to kind of close up our conversation, you know, what's something that you mentioned you spoke at Biola. You know, what is kind of your statement to up and coming filmmakers, if there is any, like a life lesson? It doesn't even have to be related to actual gear or filmmaking. Is there any mistakes along the way that you can kind of share that wisdom with others?
Yeah, I mean, don't waste your time doing something that you're not designed for. You know, I kind of hit on that earlier, but that really is it. You know, God, whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't matter. This is still true. He put gifts in every single person, different abilities, different capabilities. I use this example often. My brother is an artist, and he's really very good. He's always been able to draw. He's an illustrator and a graphic artist, works for ad agencies. He's been successful, and he's great. I cannot draw even a stick man. If I did, you would look at it and go, what is that? It's a stick man. You know, it looks like a stick. But I've always been able to take pictures. I found a picture of myself when I was 3 years old, sitting on the swing set at my granddaddy's home, and I had a camera on my lap, a Brownie camera. Even at age 3, I had an interest in that. And I found some old pictures that I had taken, and they weren't framed like really weird, you know, too much headroom or whatever. They were actually framed pretty well. They weren't really artistic masterpieces in any way, but it was something that I realized I've always kind of been able to do this, and I was kind of naturally good at it. So I'm glad I didn't try to become an artist. Maybe I could have figured out how to do it, and I think it would have been a horrible struggle. So I am grateful that I have found that thing or those things, being a visual storyteller, being able to take pictures, being a cinematographer, and directing is kind of a big piece of that. And for me, because I was a journalist, writing isn't all that hard. But the short answer is, find out what are those things that God has put in you and go do that.
I love it. Amen to that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And where can people find you? Do you have a website or social media?
Easiest place is Jody Eldred Productions. That's ELDRED, Jody with a Y, Jody Eldred Productions. And there's a sample of my work on there and some bios and some testimonials from people who I've worked with who think I'm not horrible. So I'm grateful for that.
If you're having a wedding,
yes,
give Jody a call.
And if the food is good, I will work for a discount, I assure you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jody.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Great chat. That definitely went longer than we told you it would, but I really like it.
Oh, shite.